I want to talk a little bit today about what I've done with my phone over the last 8 years. There could be a lot more. I know this, but I have a tendency to kind of take the easy way out when I find something that works for me. I just stick with that and use it. Um, Before I left the States, I was with Verizon Wireless, and I think my phone bill was like $100 a month, $120 a month. Honestly, looking back, I don't know how I lived in the States. I just don't know how I did it. It was insanely expensive and just oof. But when I left, I got a Google Voice number, a free Google Voice number before I left the States and told everybody, kind of, I think it was maybe 6 months before I left, but just kind of started telling people and giving people my phone number. You have to go through and change so many things, I think, with just like the texts that come from your bank or the texts that come from wherever that you log in. Ugh, it was a process. I don't miss that. But I just put everything I could on that Google Voice number and got to Colombia. Colombia is the first place I traveled to, and I downloaded WhatsApp and started using WhatsApp. And I remember as a US person being like, I don't get WhatsApp. Like, why would anyone use WhatsApp? We already have text messaging through our phone plan. But that's the thing, a lot of people aren't tied to a phone plan like we are in the US. So I downloaded WhatsApp, set up a number on that, and that has been my go-to ever since. I slowly, I say ported my friends and family over to WhatsApp, just kind of telling them, hey, I'm on WhatsApp. Like, if you want to keep in touch with me, can you download it too, please? And a lot of them did. And it's so funny because I still get friends that tell me, I've been traveling for like 8 years, and they're like, you are literally the only person that I text on WhatsApp. Like, I wouldn't even have that if it wasn't for you. Whereas in a totally, not everywhere, but loads of other places in the world, it is just common go to number one, like WhatsApp. People use that. So between WhatsApp and Google Voice, that's how I have lived my life. WhatsApp is pretty much for every day, for messaging people, for messaging local businesses, all kinds of stuff. And then Google Voice is kind of my American side. They're both the same number, but Google Voice is for, when my bank needs to send a 2FA text message or whatever, SMS, whatever. So Google Voice is that. WhatsApp for the other. Occasionally, if I need to call somebody in the States, like a landline, I will use Google Voice, but I can call through either the app on my phone or the desktop app, and that works great. But yeah, I generally don't use Google Voice that much. It's just kind of there. It's kind of more, I think of it as like the life admin app for my life. Everything else goes through WhatsApp. And then when it comes to mobile data, I mean, it was so nice to just cut ties and not have $120 a month phone plan anymore. And I've been amazed at how cheap data is around the world. Here in Ecuador, where I am at the moment, I pay $8 a month, and it's ongoing. Like, it's not like a plan. It's just I top it up when I need it. So I buy a plan that's good for 30 days, and it's $8, $9, and I think it's 6 gigs of data, and then like 6 gigs of WhatsApp. I've never understood how they separate, but whatever. I can use like the internet and data and things from that up to 6 gigs, but then separately I can also use WhatsApp. So even if my data's run down all the way, I could still use WhatsApp, which is nice if I'm out stranded somewhere and I'm like, hey, I get somebody, come get me because I don't have any data. But no, that really never happens. I don't use data that much because I'm home, using my phone off of the Wi-Fi here. And yeah, I don't use data that much when I'm out except to order an Uber or something like that. So that's how I do it in Ecuador. Very similar in other countries. It's always about figuring out how long I'm going to stay in the country and how much hassle I feel like dealing with. If I am not going to be in the country very long, if it's one of these things where I'm passing through and it's just going to be like a week, a couple days, I will use my hotspot, which I talked about in another video, and I will just forego buying a phone plan in that country, and I'll just tether my phone to the Wi-Fi here and use that. If I'm gonna stay in a country for a while, I just buy a SIM card and then buy a local plan. So I've been back to England multiple times in my travels. So I use giffgaff, I think. Honestly, I just go to Tesco and pick up whatever SIM card they have, and they had giffgaff that day, so that's what I have. And I think even in England, it was about $15 a month because I want to say it was like 12 pounds. So like 15, 16, 18, depending on what the currency is doing right now, $18 a month, let's say, and for a set amount of data. And what I love about these is just not being locked into an ongoing plan, but rather using data and then topping it up as I need. So I'll do that in England. I'm trying to think of where else. Everywhere else, it's just been, yeah, buying the local SIM card, which are everywhere. I mean, they're in a gas station, they're in the Tesco, they're in the supermarket, they're wherever. It's not that hard to come by. And then topping it up with what I need. Argentina, yeah, I got a SIM card there. I actually have all these little SIM cards somewhere, which I think they expire. I don't think you can actually reuse them. I think if you haven't used them for a while, they actually go dead and you do have to buy a new one, which is kind of annoying. And I do have a little plastic baggie, of SIM cards I need to just drop in the trash. Um, but I will say I am not the most you don't wanna come to me for like, "Hey, what's new and happening in the world of digital nomad SIM cards?" Because I'm late to the party all the time. I get stuck in my ways and I'm just like, "Well, this works, so I'm just gonna keep doing it forever." But something I discovered recently was, eSIMs, and again, like I said, late to the party. But when I was in Canada, for example, I did not buy a Canadian SIM card and get the Canadian phone plan and all that because it just seemed kind of expensive for what it was. Um, so I found ooh, what do I use? What do I Saily. Saily. There's 2 apps that I've heard of. Like, there are 2 companies, Saily, which I've used, and Holafly, which I have not used, but other people have asked me about. And I believe they work pretty much the same way. So my phone has the capacity for an eSIM, and you basically I'll just talk through the way I did it with Saily. I downloaded the app, and I said what country I was gonna be in, Canada. And then it gave me a list of options for different quantities of data that I wanted to buy. And I just hit buy, and then somehow it did its, technological magic. And it's, yeah, I have safe service. Just, it popped up, and I have 2 SIMs on my phone now, like the actual SIM that's in there, and then the eSIM. And I was just able to get data off of that. I don't know how this stuff works. I just pay for it. I don't know how this stuff works. But yeah, eSIMs are cool. They're definitely more expensive than buying in some countries. They are more expensive than buying the SIM card. So what I think I'm gonna do in my travels going forward is look at the country and research what, it would cost on its own or going through the app, Saily, and then I'm just gonna judge what I feel like, how much hassle I feel like. If I feel like dealing with the hassle, I might get a local card. If I don't feel like dealing with the hassle or just short time, I will just do Saily. Here in Ecuador, for example, I think I want to say, I'm gonna look this up after. I want to say that it's about $18 a month for a, data through the app. And I'm like, no, I can just go to down the street, get a SIM card for like $3 and then pay $8. So yeah, it's all this hassle comparison. But for the most part, not a big deal because our phones can do so much through Wi-Fi. Um, and I have my trusty hotspot with me at all times. I don't worry too much about a phone plan, and it's far easier. I feel no difference in how connected I am here versus back when I was in the States. So it's one of those things that yes has to be figured out, but is easy to figure out. And I will say as well with Google Voice that I know there's some other options now. There's something called I think Text Now and Talkatone, which people have mentioned to me as other options that they use instead. I can't speak to those though. I just want to put them out there that they exist, but I don't know. I've never used them personally. So anyway, good luck with your phone journey.